Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. We're talking about using data to grow an e-commerce business today. And I've got Ed Child with me, who's the head of enterprise data at Cynozure Retail. Ed's got a whole bunch of experience in different organizations like Asda, Walmart, focusing around kind of customer data, data science, marketing effectiveness, a whole load of different leadership positions. And another person I've had on my podcast and data leader who has a background in geography and GIS, or location intelligence, as I was recently corrected in terms of what that's called now. Ed, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming along.
Cool. Thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And I suppose for full disclosure up front, you are a fantastic customer of ours, and we've worked together for I think about a year now since we first started getting involved with you. So just before lockdown. That's obviously been an absolute pleasure, and I'm pleased that we get to talk about some of your story on the show. So thanks for being here again.
No, yeah. Thanks, Jason. I think we've had a really exciting journey over the last year, and we're really working hard at putting our data to work. So happy to share more.
Fab. So should we start with your business? So Cynozure Retail certainly is a up and coming name, should I say, but a very successful business and actually a real success story through lockdown. So do you want to give us a bit of background about the Cynozure business?
Sure. So yeah, I think it's fair to say Cynozure is probably not a household name, but we actually serve 2.2 million customers across the UK currently. So it's a traditional catalogue business that's based in the northwest of England. Was founded back in 1955. We have a really strong heritage in product personalization. So you pretty much name it, we can personalize it through all kinds of kind of printing and technology to, kids' toys and engraving and all kinds of interesting stuff. And it's fair to say we've transitioned as a business to be in a e-commerce driven organization. So based in the northwest, about 2.2 million active customers, and we're fortunate to have been positioned in the right time to really respond well to kind of COVID. So we've seen probably product revenue up nearly 40% year on year. So it's been a really good time to be pushing out our offering to the broader market.
Amazing. So yeah, I mean 40% up when we're seeing some organizations close, go backwards, stand still is incredible. What do you think's driven that?
Like I said, we've just been well positioned. There's obviously been a kind of serious shift towards e-commerce. We don't have any sort of bricks and mortar capability, and we sell a variety of kind of products. So a lot of things which are household names. So we have deals with Nike, Lego, Samsung, all of this. We have a range of own brand. We sell kind of homewares and kind of fashion. So I think we've got a really broad product offering that just suits customers who are really kind of ready for e-commerce and like shifting their buying really. We have a kind of credit arm too, so we're just there and able to respond flexibly to the market and however customers want to actually pay. So massive investment in e-commerce and digital over the last probably 5 years. We have a kind of app currently, and we've had over 850,000 downloads in the last year, which is staggering. Now nearly 20% of our overall sales comes via our mobile app. So I think it's fair to say we're pretty much a digital pure play now.
Yeah, cool. Great. And I've watched this growth as well as in partnership with you guys. So it's been a lot of fun and super pleased about that for you guys. And lots more to come, I'm sure. Should we talk a bit about you then and your background, your journey into data leadership? I think it's a great story. As I say, it's started to become quite familiar talking to data leaders who have come from a sort of geography background. But yeah, so what's your journey been into sort of data and this world?
Sure. So proud to say got a geography degree, and it seems surprising actually the number of people who end up doing data roles who have a background in geography. So obviously I'm really awesome at colouring in. So started my kind of career sort of doing GIS and sort of things like spatial interaction modelling. So this was working at how you apply geography and location planning to the kind of business. So I did that for probably 3 years in my early career. That kind of got me into the kind of data mining and using kind of data effectively. I then took a kind of a transition over towards financial services. So that gave me some CRM experience with rolling out a number of different CRM systems to different European markets. And then I got more interested in digital. And then an opportunity came up at Asda. So I joined Asda as an insight manager when Asda was really kind of growing its commerce capabilities. So Asda was a great kind of springboard, really, because it gave capability to build data and analytics teams from the ground up. So I built a single customer view at Asda, joining all of our disparate customer data sources together, and essentially was almost a data evangelist within Asda, looking at how we can transform to being a more data-driven organization. And that then spread across different areas, how we can start building more advanced analytics capability, and then also into areas like media effectiveness. So a lot of experience in sort of media measurement, econometrics and things like that. And I think fortunate got an opportunity to move over to Walmart in the US. That was a tremendous experience. So moved over to Bentonville, Arkansas for like 2 years. So
right,
if you
I didn't know that actually.
Yeah,
I know you'd worked at Walmart, but I didn't know you'd up sticks and
yeah. So moved over. Arkansas was awesome, tremendous experience from both a work and like family point of view. So I thoroughly recommend that to anyone who gets the opportunity. So yeah, out there for like 2 years looking at how we could make Walmart more data driven, and then came back to Asda and now been at Studio for about a year and a half.
Amazing. And so your role at Studio, your title is, I think, Enterprise Data, but essentially you own and lead the strategy for data across the organization, right?
Yeah. So I think we've not had anyone in a more central role who's taken accountability for driving value through our data. We're a very data-rich organization, and I think it's fair to say it's been not as well curated as it could have been. So I think I joined a year and a half ago to really get our arms around it, and then go, how can we really translate data into our biggest strategic asset? So we're like fortunate being a e-commerce organization. We know so much. We've got a real opportunity to leverage this more and more. So yeah, it's my role to be driving strategic business value out of our data asset.
It's there's always the sort of catalog or ex-catalog businesses have always been very, almost sort of pre-loyalty schemes, right? Have been in retail, have been very actually pretty good with data, the capture of data and the refinement that you've got to get the catalogs out to people. The ordering process needs to be good, and so catalog businesses I've seen tend to be at least mindset and culturally aligned to what data can do for an organization, even if the capability and the actual implementation hasn't been done. So a nice, I suppose, possibly a fortunate position for you that you've got this rich data set that now it's put it to work, right?
Exactly. I think we have kind of data most businesses would kind of kill for. It's just about fixing some of our foundations, linking it properly, and making sure we can really put it to work. So it's been a really exciting role, enormous buy-in from our directors and leadership team. So it's been a really exciting role to move into.
Do you think that that transition from catalog to e-commerce is a more straightforward transition from like physical retail or bricks and mortar retail to e-commerce? This is a cost difference clearly, but
Yeah, I think there's a lot of synergies there because you've obviously built all of your estate around production, photography, all this kind of stuff that's really important. So you're actually transitioning that from a kind of print like medium to a digital medium.
Yeah.
So that's a real benefit. I think it's taking the rest of the kind of business with us on this transition, because e-commerce is very different to running a traditional catalog business. But this is what we've kind of done really successfully over the last 5 years. So I think it has been like easier, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Great. Right. Let's talk about you've been there 18 months. Let's talk about sort of how you approached those early period when you got there, and essentially the data strategy that you put together and of sort of move to help move the agenda forward. It'd be interesting to talk through that. So yeah, what's the journey been like to first create and then start moving your data strategy forward?
Yeah, sure. So I think obviously when you're joining any new organization, there's a large amount of discovery work. So I spent about 3 months getting really under the kind of skin of how kind of data's already used and building up a lot of those relationships.
Yeah.
I'm really fortunate to have a really great working relationship with our IT team. So got a really good partnership there, which is so important. Delivered a data strategy up front, got sort of director and board approval on that with a kind of 3-year top level goal and objective. And I think key to that was then moving kind of forwards and translating that into some actions and something tangible. So we did a data maturity assessment, which was a really significant piece of work, but that's been so important because it helps us really articulate where some of our existing strengths are, where the kind of gaps are, but also really importantly what kind of financial value we can expect from this. So we worked with yourselves on that actually, which was a tremendous piece of work, which we delivered pre-COVID, but that was absolutely fundamental in us getting buy-in and developing a really clear path of how we move forwards.
Yeah, I think that's always really key in those early stages, isn't it? I think you did a really great job when we'd arrived of getting, conceptually and a top level where this could take you, what it could mean to the business, the fact that it's important. I know a lot. I remember talking to lots of people and at the time, and lots of your language was being used around the business, and that's a really great starting point for getting people bought into the journey that you're going on. And I think the fun bit was working together to turn that into a really clear articulation of the size of the prize and the value, and a really clear set of recommendations and a plan for how you get there and how you go after it. And so yeah, it was a fun bit of work. And did you find that it helped articulate the answer a little bit more internally? Did you find it sort of built more clarity, or really was this for you and your team to drive, to better understand what you needed to do?
I think it was really a great supporting piece of work because it helped bring credibility to the work that I'd already done, to actually show that we are moving in the right direction. Our 3-year strategy is kind of like good, but it helps sort of break it down to that next level to show where we need to start. So it was a really important piece of work to just cement what we'd already done. And in honesty, it was a piece of work that I've not had capacity to run internally either. So I think having extra kind of people here to support this, document it, and then translate it back internally, was a really invaluable.
Cool. And how, in terms of sort of leading to getting a sort of a validated strategy approved, some investment to move the agenda forward as well, how did you transition from that data strategy state, definition of data strategy, I should say, to putting some movement on it, moving to the next step? How did that transition happen? And then I want to move on to, after that, talk about sort of how it's working, the role data's playing in the organization, and where where you're focusing on. But yeah, how was that movement? What were some of the first things you did to kind of get the ball rolling?
So I think what this really helped us do was, first of all, cement our funding position internally to give us a really good kind of springboard to get going. We then worked on what's the right organizational structure internally. We wanted to sort of create a centralized enterprise hub and a enterprise level kind of team that could actually look after data as our strategic asset. And then what are all the roles and responsibilities and team associated with that? I think it's fair to say our business has varying levels of analytical expertise in different business units, but let's actually start coordinating that. So we're moving down the hub and spoke model there. So that's been really important, because we want to bring together all the data and analytics people. We're also working really hard on building dedicated back-end engineering resource. So we've created our own continuous improvement team, series of data engineers, Scrum Master. We're building out talent and more roles there, so that we've actually got dedicated back-end resource to get stuff done. So that's been really important. And then it's looking at how we can bring in the right partners to actually help us push all of these things forward. So we've identified a data science partner who can really help us, and we've also got sort of someone helping us strategically for marketing effectiveness too. So it's going, let us build the right foundations internally, but this shouldn't slow us down. So how we can still show the value of advanced analytics and data science while we're still fixing our data fundamentals.
Yeah. Cool. And where does all this go then, Ed? What's the role of data within the studio business? What are some of the things that you've either done or trying to do to support the growth of the business, or continue to drive the growth that you're seeing already?
Yeah, I think there is just so much to get cracking with. It's a really exciting opportunity, to be honest. So we have a sort of good size marketing budget. We're looking at how we use kind of data more effectively with our media planning. So we're making the investments in multi-touch attribution, econometrics, how we can tie our really rich first-party data into this area. So there's a massive opportunity for us to continue sweating our marketing spend. So there's a huge opportunity there. We've kind of created something called a data science incubator. So we've pushed some of our core transactional data into a Snowflake environment, and this is really exciting. So this gives us opportunity to show, when we have our kind of core transactional data in a really efficient, scalable environment, what we can actually do with it. So we're working currently on how we can drive better category management and really understand how customers have been shopping with us and which kind of product categories are driving profitability, long-term growth, credit income, etc. So there's loads of opportunity there. And ultimately what we want to do is be delivering more and more personalized marketing. It's fair to say, when you've been a traditional catalog retailer and you're used to sending out big kind of print volumes where everybody sees something similar, we've got huge opportunities through email, CRM, push, all of this stuff too. So we've made significant investments in Salesforce. So we're just sweating that asset too.
So yeah, it's a good point there about that. I talked earlier about the difference between catalog and e-com, or asked the question about the difference between catalog and e-com. I suppose one of the biggest is your. I mean, you can personalize print, but of course at volume, and the cost of doing that at volume and the changing of the ranges that you have, that's an expensive thing to do when you're printing, but you can do it at a much more rapid pace, test and try and figure things out in sort of small volumes before you scale it up across all your customer base, can't you, when it's digital? So is that proving, you still sort of seeing early success from that? And does the catalog still play a role in this, or I've just seen that IKEA either have dropped or are dropping their catalog. Does it still play an important role, and is some of that 2.2 million customer base actually still pretty wedded to flicking through the catalog in their front room, or does it essentially all move digital?
No, I think catalogue still has a role, and it's just how we kind of transition to going, rather than everything being oriented around catalogue, which is where things were, to then going, how do we mix it up so you've got the right channel for the right customer at the right time. Catalogue can be expensive, but it can also be great with the right customers. And what we're kind of finding is, rather than sending out the kind of monster big books, it's actually going, how can you drop smaller books that are potentially more tailored to kind of people, so you're giving people more of a kind of nudge, but it's also then going, how we utilize Salesforce and like data for more automated journeys, so that actually our marketing's more and more integrated, and you're actually just hitting customers with the right media that they're actually engaging with to actually drive it all. So it's all the traditional stuff, but catalog still has a important part.
Yeah, it's like another data point in terms of how people shop it, and the incremental it drives and the products people buy from that. And it's another engagement point for the people that it resonates with. And I suppose the value of data in that journey, or that story, is understanding which customers catalog resonates with and which doesn't, which ones will more likely purchase because they've seen the catalog, and which ones actually, frankly, you're sending it and it's going in the recycling bin. So I think, so just is data playing a part in that more than it used to?
Absolutely. I think this is where it gets really interesting when you're looking at moving on your capabilities, moving away from last click attribution to multi-touch. Then you can see if you've got multi-touch, but when you've hit someone with a offline channel like print, suddenly you can really start understanding the combination of a digital and a offline marketing experience, which is massively valuable. So it's data plays a absolutely fundamental role, and then particularly we can then start being smarter with our media personalization too, so that we're actually talking to you with the right products and offering too. So huge opportunity.
Are there other areas of the business? So you talked a lot about sort of marketing there and customer engagement. There are other, obviously, you're full end-to-end retailer. Are there other parts of the business where there's some interesting use cases for deploying data and insight and models to help?
Absolutely. I think every part of the business is really crying out for it. I think what we're doing is fixing our data foundations and fundamentals. There's huge opportunity with our customer experience and customer services team, how we can feed better data through them so they can actually deliver more timely, relevant information back to customers when they're contacting us. I think there'll be future opportunities in optimizing our supply chain, and we work really, really closely with our financial services business too. So you can make sure that you're really optimizing credit offering, different propositions. So literally every part of the organization wants to be part of this, and ultimately it's for us then going, how can we build the right enterprise capability that helps everybody, rather than building point solutions for individual teams.
Yeah, you sort of touched on a point there, going back to enterprise data, that I wanted to maybe sort of wrap up with, which is Obviously you've transitioned from, I mean, you've had data leadership positions, but they've been focused around sort of a certain area, certainly more recently, sort of customer and marketing lens. And you talk, very, very articulately there about the opportunities that are, and you're doing some advanced stuff around sort of attribution modeling, which is sort of the sharpest end of marketing spend analysis and getting the right messages to the right people. How have you sort of personally helped sort of grow into a role that's actually across the enterprise, both at the how is data used at the sort of the top end of the data value chain, as well as the management of the data and sort of everything in between? I think that's been an interesting journey, certainly to watch you on. But how's that? How have you dealt with that? What's some have been the ways you've sort of skilled yourself up and your team actually to be more effective in sort of across the board?
Yeah, great question, because having worked somewhere big, Asda previously, and like Walmart too, the size of the business and your head office functions are enormous.
Yeah.
So I think that was actually what attracted me to kind of Studio, really, because you've got more capability and autonomy to get stuff done. So the relationship building with the different teams internally has been absolutely critical. Been really fortunate that our IT team have a really good working relationship. So if you don't have that really good one with your IT guys and you're working in the data and analytics space, some of this stuff's really hard. So really fortunate there. And ultimately, a lot of it is just how we can translate this into business value. And that's ultimately what my role is being able to work with different teams, understand what their problems are, and then look at how data and analytics can solve that. And actually you find that it's the same problem and challenge in different areas. So for me, a lot of it is all about relationship building, but then also giving them confidence and showing what we can really do to step things on.
Yeah, that as I said before, I think that one of the great things when we first sort of started working with you guys was the language that was used. It was such common language, and it was clearly from your work, your leadership, that had got people on the same page with that, and that early alignment of the way people think about this and what you're trying to achieve is so helpful, isn't it? And that, as you say, there's that relationship the building of trust between teams. I think you've achieved that really, really well there. And it also looks, slightly outside looking in, although obviously got some closer visibility of this, that you do a similar thing, not only within the sort of four walls of your company, but also externally as well, supporting and working together with other retail organizations, as you said before, other partners. Has that been an important part of the success? Is it just a way of helping to deliver the promise? Is it just your modus operandi? What's been the thinking around that?
I think I've recognized the real value in the external networking piece. So taking part in like conferences, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and presenting, sharing use cases and like stories, and then creating partnerships. So I've done stuff previously with the IDM and DMA, and we've run internal data hacks or partnership hacks with them. And I'm like really keen how we can all kind of get collectively better. I mean, honestly, there's just so much to like learn. And I think people in the data and analytics industry are generally really open and like great at sharing success stories and things. So I'm like keen to, flow things back in there. But it's a really fascinating industry. Data and tech's changing constantly. I feel you've got to be on the top of your game. So you can't just be inwards looking. You like need to be out there understanding what's going on, trialing new stuff, and just peer networking, super important.
Brilliant, cool. Well, Ed, I really appreciate talking all of this through. As I said, it's been brilliant being on some small part of this journey with you and helping to achieve some of the successes we've loved sort of seeing it happen, and actually what's great here is there's, as I said before, that you've got the organization behind you. You've got a great team, and I know that team will grow, and you'll develop that out further with some real sort of modern techniques as well with how you do all this stuff. So appreciate you talking about all of that on the show today, Ed.
No, thanks, Jason. Pleasure.
Cool. And great, everyone. Thanks a lot for listening. We'll catch you next time.